Almost 2 years ago, Angry Joe took up a defense of Anita Sarkeesian and slammed her critics with charges of sexism, misogyny, and all-around misrepresented the entire controversy surrounding Anita Sarkeesian's treatment by those who have found fault with her work. In this video, we're going to scrutinize what he said, show its flaws, and hopefully assure any fan of Angry Joe that they were absolutely justified in finding fault with what Anita Sarkeesian has had to say. If you're not a fan of Angry Joe, be forewarned. Angry Joe is vulgar and uses very explicit language, as is his custom, but we will not censor him. We will not bleep out his language, we will not mute him, or otherwise censor Angry Joe in any way. If you have a problem with hearing bad language or seeing a couple of obscene gestures, click away now. Otherwise, sit back and enjoy as I, along with a little help from one of Angry Joe's biggest fans, take down Angry Joe's defense of Anita Sarkeesian and expose it for the utter travesty that it is.
Anita Sarkeesian and the gross sexism among gamers. Just the mere mention of this girl's name will blow up your comments section with some of the most disgusting hate and ignorance I have ever seen, and it depresses and angers me that some of my own fans engage in it and post it. Go ahead, look for yourself. Just scroll down to the comments and you can see how hateful and stupid it is. If you can't take a dissenting opinion or someone that disagrees with you, then why the hell are you even subscribed to any review or editorial channel at all?
That is absurd. This is the first brazenly false statement Angry Joe comes back to over and over again. Gamers can't stand Anita Sarkeesian because allegedly they can't handle dissenting opinions. That is completely and utterly false. We'll get into many of the reasons gamers do hate her, but one main reason gamers hate her so much is because Anita Sarkeesian is a documented liar. Angry Joe comes close to addressing that when his video cuts from his live-action rant to an analysis of a video that was posted on the web in 2010, where Anita said she isn't a gamer.
There is one other thing that I have to bring up when you talk about Anita Sarkeesian. Yes, there is a video of her saying that she's not a gamer. She doesn't like playing games. She doesn't like shooting people and think that that shit is gross. That's true.
That is true. However, that's only half the story. This is going to be repeated throughout Angry Joe's video, where huge sections of all the controversies surrounding Anita Sarkeesian are going to be completely left out of the discussion. For those who don't know, Anita is hated because she misrepresents video games and video gamers, and one of the underlying reasons why is because she herself isn't a gamer. She's not familiar with the video gaming community. She's in no position to speak with personal authority on the subject, but that's exactly what she does. The controversy at this point is not that once upon a time she said she wasn't into games. It's that later, when she got into criticizing video games, she started claiming to have always been a gamer to bolster her own credibility. In 2010, Anita said,
"It's a soundtrack of one song, except I'm doing video games. So it's not exactly a fandom. I'm not a fan of video games. I actually had to learn a lot about video games in the process of making this. And also, video games, like, I would love to play video games, but I don't want to go around shooting people and ripping off their heads, and it's just gross. So hence, this is my response to that."
And then, a couple years later, she says,
"How do you feel about video games?"
I still love them. I think games are really where we're going.
This is a photo of me at age 10 playing Super Mario World on the Super Nintendo. So I've been playing games for quite a while. And in addition to being a lot of fun to play, games have lots of positive benefits as well. So again, I've been playing games for a while, but there's something that's always kind of bothered me. Now, I grew up on Nintendo. I've been a fan of the Mario and Zelda franchises for most of my life, and they'll always have a special place in my heart.
And also, video games, like, I would love to play video games, but I don't want to go around shooting people and ripping off their heads, and it's just gross. So hence, this is my response to that.
Anita's own professed history in gaming is replete with contradictions such as these. Even early on in this year, she showed that childhood picture of herself at a lecture she gave at New York University in February. She claimed to have had a complicated relationship with gaming, and yet even in that talk she admitted she still wasn't sure if she'd call herself a gamer even then. If that weren't bad enough, just a couple months later in April, Anita earned a spot in Time's 100 Most Influential People in the Pioneers section, where Will Wheaton declared that Anita Sarkeesian has played video games her whole life. Complete and total contradiction. This is the kind of stuff that critics of Anita point to as proof of her dishonesty. Neither she nor her own supporters can keep her story straight. On one hand, she'd like to play video games, but can't. And on the other hand, she has played video games ever since she was 5 years old. But on the other hand, her relationship with gaming is complicated. On the other hand, she was playing a lot of games. But on the other hand, she had to get back into gaming with Mario Kart Wii, but that came out in 2008, so apparently she fell out of gaming again afterwards. But on the other hand, she still refused to call herself a gamer, but on the other hand, she has played video games all her life, but on the other hand, she says she doesn't know if she'd call herself a gamer even now, but whatever. This is a consistent pattern of contradiction over a period of 5 years. And while Angry Joe's video is 2 years old, most of this evidence was readily available at the time, and he didn't touch it with a 10-foot pole. This issue alone ought to be enough to show that critics of Anita Sarkeesian are not the raving, woman-hating nutjobs that Angry Joe portrayed them to be. Remember, this is just one facet of Anita's dishonesty that Angry Joe never fully addressed. There's much more we could cover, and we'll get into more of it. But first, we'll examine another controversy that Angry Joe brought up, and that is that Anita Sarkeesian has taken video game footage from other gamers and used them in her web series without even giving them credit.
It's also probably extremely likely, I'm talking 99.9%, that she borrowed Let's Play footage from Cubex55 on YouTube without giving them credit. Those two things are true. I personally would like to see her apologize for using the footage and not crediting those people. I don't know if she's ever publicly apologized for that, but that is one definite thing that she needs to apologize for.
I agree. She should definitely apologize for that. To this day, she still hasn't done so, but this issue isn't so much that she didn't credit other gamers for their game footage. It's bigger than that. Again, we have only half the story here. Nobody is accusing Anita of copyright theft, as though any of the people from whom she took this footage own some form of copyright over their footage. It's the question of why. Why take footage when she could easily create her own? She won almost $160,000 in her Kickstarter campaign and collected a large variety of video games. She could easily have done it. If there really was no shame in not making her own footage, why not just credit the gamers who made the footage she used in her final project? Yeah, she didn't give them credit, but why she did is the other elephant in the room that Angry Joe didn't address. In fact, even though he said Anita should apologize for not crediting those other YouTubers, he posted these subtitles on his videos that misrepresented the critics who point out, like I just did, that Anita won so much money on her Kickstarter. He says that they allege that Anita's Kickstarter made too much money. That's false. The argument is that she's misappropriating the money she was given. For the record, Anita Sarkeesian did release a detailed outline of where she says she has been spending her money earlier this year, but all the detail fails to explain a multitude of problems. Her taking other people's gaming footage is again just one small facet of a larger issue. Another argument has been that the quality of her videos is hardly any better since she received her Kickstarter money, i.e. very little money was spent on upgrading her equipment. Some people have said it didn't improve at all. That's false, but as one blogger wrote, the improvements in her video wouldn't have cost that much money. At most, they should have tallied up to less than 10% of the total amount she was given. Perhaps the best argument has to do with the fact that Anita is notoriously bad at getting her videos made on time, something you wouldn't expect if the money in your budget swelled to 2,600% of what you needed. She promised to have her videos completed by December of 2012. By the time Joe released his video, Anita had only released 4 of her videos, and his video came out in January of 2014. It's now January of 2016, and only 5 more videos have been released since then, not counting the mini episode Anita released last September. In fact, even if we count Anita's new mini-episode, we find that her production is still continuing to move at a snail's pace. Before Angry Joe released his video, Anita had released her first 4 videos on an average of 1 video per 130 days. Just look at when her Kickstarter ended, June 16th of 2012. So, beginning with June 17th of 2012 and ending with the release date of Anita's Miss Male character video on November 18th of 2013, you get 520 days. That comes out to 130 days, more than 4 months on average per video, none of which were made in time, and don't even make up half the videos she promised to make. Now, that was 2 years ago, so has this issue been resolved since then? Not even close. Now, Anita has started coming out with 1 video on an average of 110.83 days. Take the day after she released her 4th video, November 19th of 2013, and end with the release date of her recent mini-episode, September 14th of 2015. You get 665 days, which, when divided by 6, comes out to almost 111 days per video. That's still pretty darn slow, but if we don't include her first-time mini-episode and adjust the end date to the release of her most recent full-length episode, then her actual episodes are taking 130.2 days to make, i.e., she is even slower now than she was before. Now look back at Angry Joe's subtitles and see how simplistic it sounds. Anita made too much money? No, she's misappropriating it. Gamers have picked up on details like the ones we just went through to make this argument. She got way more money than she asked for, but in spite of that, she didn't make her own gaming footage and instead took other people's footage without even giving them credit. Her recording equipment upgrade was also not that expensive, and she can barely manage to deliver the product she promised to the people who donated their money to her cause. That would be a much more accurate and helpful discussion to have. And in fact, Angry Joe took the video game company Creative Assemblies to task specifically because they told people that they got way more money in their budget to make Total War Rome 2, and yet turned out such a horrible product at release.
How can this be the biggest budget Total War game, 40% bigger than anything before, and yet the AI is this incompetent at release? This incompetent.
We've got a huge budget for the game, about 40% bigger than anything we've done before, so we're absolutely determined to make it the most epic Total War title ever.
I actually raised 25 times what I initially asked for.
We've got a huge budget for the game, about 40% bigger than anything we've done before.
I actually raised 25 times what I initially asked for.
Where the fuck did all the money go?
Exactly, Angry Joe. Where did all the money go? That's a valid question, but it seems as though none of that really matters to Angry Joe when it comes to Anita Sarkeesian.
However, whether she's a hardcore gamer or not, she is entitled to her opinion. She says she's a gamer. She says she has a love-hate relationship with gaming because of what she finds offensive in it. Whatever. It doesn't matter. That's not the point that I'm trying to bring up here.
And here you have the biggest problem in Angry Joe's defense of Anita Sarkeesian. This really does build off of his earlier statement that gamers can't handle dissenting opinions. If that were true, then sure, it wouldn't matter if Anita was right or wrong. The bigger problem would lie with the gamers who showed that they can't tolerate people who disagree with them. But that's not the case. Clearly it's not the case. Anita Sarkeesian is not simply some poor innocent woman who just wants to point out stereotypes in video games. She does not shy away from getting in gamers' faces. She calls the games they love sexist and downright misogynistic.
Many games tend to reinforce and amplify sexist and downright misogynist ideas about women.
She says gamers are entitled and very intolerant of women.
It's very male-dominated, and I think with that male domination comes a sense of entitlement. That these games are for men by men, and that women, if they're going to participate, they need to shut up.
And says that if you believe that women as a whole need to be taken care of by men, as many video games portray, you hold to deeply sexist beliefs.
It's a sad fact that a large percentage of the world's population still clings to the deeply sexist belief that women as a group need to be sheltered, protected, and taken care of by men.
Anita Sarkeesian may be very calm and collected on the outside, but in reality, she won't shy away from lying about gamers outright. Did you hear what she said in that 16:9 excerpt?
And I think with that male domination comes a sense of entitlement. That these games are for men by men, and that women, if they're going to participate, they need to shut up.
That right there is a complete and total lie. And that has nothing to do with pointing out stereotypes in video games. This had to do with going out of her way to talk about male gamers and painting them as a bunch of evil villains who despise women so much that they wouldn't even allow them to be involved in gaming unless they agreed to shut up first. As a gamer belonging to a family of gamers, most of whom are male, I know firsthand how untrue that is. If Anita were a gamer, as she claimed to be, then she would know that too. It should come as a surprise to no one that gamers poured out their anger on Anita Sarkeesian. She's not our friend, she's an enemy. A very calm and collected enemy, but nonetheless a very dishonest and very hateful enemy.
What I'm trying to point out is the gross overreaction that some people had to somebody challenging the status quo. Somebody with a dissenting opinion. Somebody with a different point of view.
Again, if that's all Anita was doing, expressing a different point of view, then gamers would be overreacting. But since we just saw that that's not all Anita is doing, then this statement is likewise untrue.
It is 100% true that 4chan attacked her.
And guess who makes up perhaps 90% of the users at 4chan? Gamers. No surprise there. I'm sure it is 100% true, but if Anita said the same thing to them that she has to the rest of the world, then she brought it upon herself. That's no one's fault but her own.
It is 100% true that she has YouTube personalities who make constant videos attacking her daily, all the freaking time, trying to get her videos pulled down.
That's also true, but so what? Well, Angry Joe is going to play an excerpt from a YouTube user named WarCorp666, and an excerpt from Mundane Matt. This is where it gets tricky to respond to, because I looked into both of these guys. First, when it comes to Mundane Matt, I think he legitimately sounds disingenuous. He tries to argue that he never flagged Anita's videos, and he doesn't really like doing that. I don't believe him. I think that's exactly what he did, and he certainly encouraged other people to do the same. That's censorship, and I would not call this man my ally. So granted, Mundane Matt is an unfair critic of Anita Sarkeesian. But what about WarCorp666?
Feminist Frequency, Anita Sarkeesian. The old War Corpse is sorry. Sorry about the fact that you're so full of shit. That you live in Santa Monica, California. I live here in Minnesota, and goddamn it, woman, you reek all the way here. I'm sorry about the fact that you sit there and you got $150,000+ from your friends, family, and fans to make a video series that is so full of shit. Fucking Walt Disney was more truthful. And all you've done, instead of focusing on your video series, all you've done is cry.
Wow. Sounds like WarCorp666 is a total lunatic. You'd think reasonable, hard-hitting critics of Anita didn't even exist from these excerpts. You'd think they were all just a bunch of nuts. But, ironically, all I had to do was go to one of WarCorp666's other videos to find out that after he made his rant video, he made a thoughtful critique of Anita's first Tropes vs. Women video, in which he brings up some of the exact same points we've just examined.
This is why she has gotten such rage against her, is because she's taking beloved franchises and basically saying they're pieces of crap. They're misogynistic pieces of crap. She's taking a culture that she knows nothing about, and please do not give me that stupid Christmas photo of you with a Super Nintendo controller and say you're a gamer. Every kid has a photo of them playing video games. At least one.
So even when we see a man we'd normally dismiss as irrational, all we have to do is scratch the surface to see the other side of the story that Angry Joe never presented in his video. He of all people would know that even the smartest gamers in the world cut loose and rant from time to time. And that's what makes this representation of WarCorp so unfair. He's actually pretty thoughtful and intelligent, just like Angry Joe. But all Angry Joe did was show him ranting and cursing as if that's all he or any other critic of Anita has to say. That would be like me splicing together a bunch of clips of Angry Joe cursing and swearing, and then dismissing him as if he never said anything else worthwhile. That would be absolutely unfair to do, and it was utterly unfair for Joe to paint Anita's YouTube critics as just a bunch of crazy, disingenuous people.
It is absolutely true that there are many people out there that flag her videos for no fucking reason other than they don't like her. And that is the controversy that I'm talking about. That shit is wrong. All because of what she's saying.
Well, I agree that her videos shouldn't be flagged, but that's just one tiny part of this whole controversy that Joe got right. And even then, none of Anita's videos have ever been taken down or deleted or removed from YouTube, so it doesn't seem like any flagging Anita received actually harmed her in any way.
I'd like to think that in gaming, we can listen and disagree with other points of view without getting into some of the shit that we've seen that Anita has had to go through.
We can. We have. I have. So has WarCorp666. So have a bazillion other people on YouTube. You know who can't get along with those who disagree? Anita Sarkeesian. She doesn't get along with her critics. She just blocks them. All you have to do is be explicitly anti-feminist in your words, and she will block you and thereby make it impossible for you to get along with her. And that started before Anita even launched her Kickstarter project.
I probably have the biggest block list on YouTube of anyone. Like, I block people left and right. Anytime they leave any sort of like explicitly anti-feminist or harassing or threatening comments, they're blocked.
Fast forward to today, and now Anita doesn't just block certain people. Check her YouTube videos. She doesn't allow comments on any of them at all. Joe says he'd like to think we could all get along and disagree, but Anita herself has said she will not get along with those with whom she disagrees, so that's not going to happen. She'll refuse to talk to you if you so much as make it explicitly clear that you are anti-feminist. It seems like she's the one who needs a lesson in getting along with others.
Look, this could be its own video, but I'll try to sum it up like this. The issue and controversy isn't whether Anita is right or wrong in pointing out the actual and real damsel in distress trope and doing a series about it. No, the controversy and issue is the gross reaction to it by many butthurt man-children and actual clueless little boys who think that this woman is out to take away their porn and video games permanently, and that she will somehow actually end up doing that.
Now, we've already seen how Angry Joe likes to smear Anita's critics. It's incredible how personal he gets in describing Anita's critics by saying they're overreacting like a bunch of butthurt man-children. Let's take another look at one of her critics, Thunderfoot. Does this man sound like a butthurt man-child to you?
For instance, she describes Double Dragon Neon like this.
Most recently, Double Dragon Neon in 2012 reintroduced new gamers to this regressive crap yet again, this time in full HD.
Without mentioning that the game Double Dragon Neon ends like this.
One day to antagonize you, Billy and Jimmy!
Oh, right in the balls.
Which I kid you not, she then goes on to describe like this.
The pattern of presenting women as fundamentally weak, ineffective, or ultimately incapable has larger ramifications beyond the characters themselves, and
yeah, that's right. The game that ends with Marion breaking a 20-foot tall, super space-lit man in half like a toothpick by punching him in the balls is apparently...
The pattern of presenting women as fundamentally weak, ineffective, or ultimately incapable has larger ramifications beyond...
I think we're going to have a fundamental disagreement about what constitutes well-researched here, Anita.
This is another example where Angry Joe dismissed even the most calm and collected critics of Anita. Isn't it ironic? Joe is sneering at Anita's critics for overreacting, but who is the one who's really overreacting here? As far as Anita taking away our video games goes, surely that must be completely insane. That would be an overreaction, right? Well, remember this little incident where Target and Kmart of Australia stopped carrying Grand Theft Auto 5 last year? They received a feminist petition from some former sex workers, or, in Target's words, listened to customer feedback and decided to stop carrying it. Yeah, that happened, and now customers who wanted to buy what was the most insanely popular video game of its time couldn't get it. Not from Target or Kmart of Australia anyways. They'd have to go somewhere else, thanks to feminists. It is true that this took place almost a year after Angry Joe made his video. However, when he was informed of it immediately on Twitter when it did happen, his response was, "Who cares about Australian Target? Is that where you usually buy your games?" I agree, it's really stupid though. In other words, Anita's critics weren't stupid after all. He's the one who was brash and naive, but he still just dismissed it. For him, it doesn't matter that he mocked Anita's critics unjustly. Anita is still an innocent little angel, and her critics are still paranoid and man-shouldered and so on. He wasn't the irrational one. Everyone who criticized Anita was, according to him, but who was proven wrong? Not them, it was him. And if those anonymous, nobody knows whom former sex workers could create a petition that could push major retailers to stop carrying a best-selling video game, then it only makes sense to get alarmed by Anita Sarkeesian since she's such a well-known beloved feminist. She has drawn the support of Joss Whedon and even managed to become so popular she got to speak at the UN. Before that, she'd become popular enough to get $158,000 to make her web series. Just how much incredible influence is she allowed to gain before Angry Joe finally recognizes that her critics are justifiably worried about how she could impact the industry as a whole?
They fear and knee-jerk react to this so hard, they actually fail to see how stupid it makes them look in the process, either by going on about how feminism is a blight on the world, or how every single thing Anita says is completely fabricated and society doesn't ever do those things.
I was almost going to pass over these comments, but let's pause for 1 second and notice something Joe said. He said Anita's critics are stupid by claiming feminism is a blight on the world. Okay, so according to him, they're so wrong they can't even see how dumb they look. But since when did their being right or wrong matter? According to Angry Joe, it doesn't matter if Anita herself is right or wrong.
The issue and controversy isn't whether Anita is right or wrong in pointing out the actual and real damsel in distress trope. The controversy and issue is the gross reaction to it.
So, who cares if her critics are right or wrong? In the very act of mocking Anita's opponents, Angry Joe tips his hand to how foolish it was to try and brush that issue aside.
The woman has a right to point out and criticize whatever she sees fit.
No, she doesn't. No, she doesn't. Angry Joe himself doesn't even believe that. Think about it. If you have a right to something, it means you deserve it. One of the hallmarks of Angry Joe's work is his willingness to play some of the worst video games ever. He plays them for decent lengths of time, and records his gameplay footage when he does so. It's the hardest but most fundamental element to providing accurate video game reviews because it proves that his criticism is grounded in truth.
I played 21 hours of this, trying to find something worth anything. No way. No way. I have to do my part to fucking stop this!
Anita Sarkeesian, on the other hand, doesn't do any of that. Since when did she become so incredibly insightful that she just doesn't need to do those things? She must be even better than Joe himself. After all, Joe holds himself to a pretty high standard. But even when he's aware that this woman he's defending is at least suspect in her claims to be a gamer at all, and he knows for sure she takes other people's gaming footage without crediting them, he still maintains that she has a right to criticize. Complete and total hypocrisy. What happened to the Angry Joe who challenged Jeff Cayley on whether he chose qualified judges for the 2010 VGAs?
You get my point. Who selects the games, and what are their qualifications to select the games that get voted on this?
Wait, what are their qualifications? Who cares about qualifications? I thought people just have this inherent right to criticize whatever they see fit.
Whether she's a hardcore gamer or not, she is entitled to her opinion.
Who selects the games, and what are their qualifications?
Whether she's a hardcore gamer or not, she is entitled to her opinion.
Who selects the games, and what are their qualifications to select the games that get voted on this?
See, outside of talking about feminism, I think Angry Joe is very sharp and scrupulous. It's only when topics like feminism come up that people like him suddenly abandon every principle they normally stand for because it sounds so valiant to protect women. I still have to hold Angry Joe at fault, though, because he knew her work was very suspect. He showed that he knew some of the complaints against Anita were valid, and he should have stopped there, thrown out his script, and then scrutinized Anita just like he would anyone else. But he didn't.
The woman has a right to point out and criticize whatever she sees fit, without death threats and emails coming over and people saying they're gonna rape her and stupid ass shit like that.
Why? Since when does anybody have the right to say controversial things and be absolved of rape and death threats? And by the way, rape and death threats? Anybody who is anybody on the internet gets them. Men, women, feminists, Christians, they all get them. It's standard fare. It's nothing to be worried about. People on the net need to vent their rage, and that's what they do. Call it mean, call it harsh, call it vulgar, call it whatever you want. Whatever it isn't actually dangerous. There's no reason for Joe to get so angry over it.
Let's see now. Historically, in a male-dominated game industry, has the damsel in distress trope been used over and over? You bet your ass it has.
Okay. Who is he yelling at? Nobody disagrees with that. I don't disagree with that. I made my own separate video about the damsel in distress plotline and why we love it so much. Yes, it's used over and over again. It's just that good. Joe bellowed at his camera like a freaking wife beater, as if his own viewers are so stupid they actually threatened to rape Anita purely for pointing this out. It's so dumb.
Would it be cool if developers continued to explore other stories in addition to those? Yes, it would.
Yeah, all those Mega Man players and Tomb Raider players and Animal Crossing players and Metroid Prime players, they just can't conceive of a game where you don't save the girl. Nope, they can't comprehend it. Those silly, clueless, butthurt man-children, they don't know nothing. If you gave them anything other than a Save the Girl video game, they would just stare at it and not know what to do. I know I'm sounding a little silly right now, but look at Joe. He's the one waving his hands around as if he needs to implore Anita's critics to just give it a try. Come on, guys, it's okay. Don't you want to try something different? It'll be cool, I promise.
Does it sometimes make women feel uncomfortable to be over-sexualized non-stop in the games that they play daily? Sure.
No, women don't feel that way. My own feminist sister plays games that have all kinds of racy content and sexual objectification in them, like Grand Theft Auto 5. My former girlfriend and I also played Heavy Rain a couple times together, and I was the one trying to skip through or just shut my eyes through the one or two brief scenes of nudity that game has. The same kind of thing happened when we played Metal Gear Solid 3, and she's the one who bought these games herself. She was the one who giggled at me, even though I was trying to not make her feel uncomfortable or insecure. She found my behavior comical. She wasn't bothered in the least. To the contrary, she found the whole thing funny, and even bought me Project X Zone for my birthday present. No, women aren't bothered by these things. In fact, Angry Joe himself had a similar experience with his girlfriend back in 2012 with Tara. Listen to him yourself.
But another thing that, the other part of the controversy was this. The Elin, which, as you can see, they're kind of little girl kind of things, creatures. And a lot of people were saying, what the hell, they look like preteens, and you can pretty much see up their skirts, like if you select the class. I think they even actually censored it for the American version, but there's another little controversy going on. They're pretty much, I don't know why they feel that's necessary, but you know, I was showing Amanda and she says these characters are cute as hell, you know, and she loves to play, would love to play as them with the bunny ears and all sorts of stuff. So but me, no, I'm not gonna play. I'm not gonna play that.
Isn't that weird how my and Angry Joe's experiences just happen to resemble each other so closely? His is even more eye-opening when you think about it. His girlfriend not only didn't object to playing super over-sexualized characters, but she thought it was super cute to play a sexified preteen character, a minor.
You know, I was showing Amanda, and she says these characters are cute as hell. You know, and she loves to play, would love to play as them with the bunny ears and all sorts of stuff. So, but me, no, I'm not gonna play. I'm not gonna play that.
She was more comfortable with that than Angry Joe himself. What a surprise! I mean, to a non-gamer, it might sound reasonable that female gamers might feel uncomfortable by super racy content in games, but in reality, it's not true at all. Women who game have no objection to that. If anything, Angry Joe's girlfriend proves that they're more comfortable with that kind of content than men themselves.
And maybe that's something that you will never understand or even care about.
It's not that I don't understand, it's that I know the truth, and the truth is, women are just as likely to enjoy over-sexualized games as any man. That makes no sense if what you're saying is true.
But do they have a right to say something about it without being called a feminazi? Without getting death threats or rape threats? Hell yes they do, and I'll defend their right to do it against anyone.
Defend her? Wait a minute, didn't we just hear from Anita Sarkeesian that it's a deeply sexist belief to think women as a group need to be sheltered, protected, and taken care of by men?
It's a sad fact that a large percentage of the world's population still clings to the deeply sexist belief that women as a group need to be sheltered, protected, and taken care of by men.
Joe can't even defend Anita without leaving himself wide open to charges of sexism from her own work. And before anyone says, well, Anita didn't say it's always sexist to think that, there are exceptions, then how does this situation count as an exception? What is Joe defending her from? Cheap rape and death threats that we all already know are just hot air on the net? How petty and frail do you have to be to need protecting from that? Surely not Anita Sarkeesian. She can take care of herself, or at least she should be if her feminism were true. After all that, Joe then wants to calm himself down, wave a white flag, and just give us a real heart-to-heart talk, man-to-man, you know? You don't have to get angry. He's going to show us things aren't as bad as they seem.
Look, guys. Real talk now, okay? The ladies, can you excuse us for a second? Come here, man. No one is ever gonna take away your porn.
Ah, okay, so we're not really having a heart-to-heart. We're actually being scorned and ridiculed like a bunch of crazed lunatics. Sure, Anita Sarkeesian has never personally declared that she wishes to ban pornography, but other feminists certainly want to take away porn. Those two sex workers who made that petition to Target and Kmart of Australia managed to take away GTA 5, and it has some porn in it. Gail Dines is another example of a feminist who wants to take away porn, and Anita has endorsed her in her writing against slut walks. And for the record, I don't oppose feminists because they try to take away porn. Porn is sinful, it's bad for you, I get it, but let's not pretend that there aren't feminists out there trying to take it away.
No one's ever gonna take away our male power fantasies. Big badass muscle dudes and badass power armor killing countless people and having sex with scantily clad women.
Yeah, unless you count Grand Theft Auto 5 and you happen to live in Australia.
No one is ever gonna take away those games with the ridiculously sexy and non-functional female armor designs that we Google at and look at their ass. Many men love this. And guess what? Many women like these too.
Oh, really? I thought women are made uncomfortable by their over-sexualization in video games. Which is it? Do many women like it, or do many women hate it?
And as long as they sell, they will always exist.
Right, unless Target and Kmart stop carrying them, in which case they can't be sold in the first place.
So calm the fuck down. And this next thing is gonna blow your fucking mind. Trust me.
Get ready for some really bad acting, folks.
Many feminists fucking love sex. They love sex in video games just as much as men.
Bull crap. The very petition that made Kmart and Target of Australia remove GTA 5 from their shelves proved that that's bullcrap. And what does it say about feminism if feminists can say completely contradictory things and still call themselves feminists? On one hand, they're sometimes made uncomfortable by sex in video games. Or they love it just as much as men. Which is it? They both can't be true. Sure, most female gamers, if you ask them questions about certain social issues, will reveal that they hold to feminist points of view, but that's not relevant to the games they play. I know these feminist gamers will be perfectly okay with sex in video games, but there is no way in the world they love it just as much as men. And no feminist who hates video games so much that she'll create a petition to get the most popular game ever removed from store shelves could ever claim to love sex in video games. Much less would she love sex in video games just as much as men. Much less would she like video games at all. And just look at Angry Joe's face. Look how hard he's trying to be excited by what he's saying right now. I don't think a single one of his fans listened to that statement and actually believed him. His attitude is so forced. This isn't just fake, this is cringe-worthy fake.
Whether it's Mass Effect or Witcher 2, and if it's done right, it adds to the story and personal connection to the game and characters. It's hot! But when it's done poorly, it feels out of place and just an excuse to show a boobie to an immature crowd. Given the choice, you'd pick boobs that are worth a damn every single time. And so would they.
Well, the only problem with that is that I don't actually play video games that have tons of fan service in them. Project X Zone is probably the only exception to that, but it's so filled with fan service that I always wind up putting it away after a while, because I can't enjoy gaming when the game itself is constantly pushing my brain towards thinking about sex. It makes it impossible to enjoy, and it's such a shame because Project X Zone is actually a really well-designed strategy game. I wanted it because I knew characters from the Mega Man X and Legends series were in it, and I could have enjoyed it so much more without all the cheese. I have clocked in over 135 hours playing it, but contrast that to Me Plaza, where I've clocked in almost 200 hours, or Animal Crossing New Leaf, where I've played it for over 452 hours. Who knows how many hours I would have clocked into Project X Zone if I weren't so frustrated with the distracting fan service in it.
So take a breather and realize it's perfectly fine for women to ask questions, to criticize pointless, exploitative material.
Well, since actual female gamers don't have problems with that, that's not even an issue. It's only an issue for militant feminists like Anita Sarkeesian.
And to look forward to more games that elevate their gender women to more than just goals and objects to be won or saved, but into legitimate heroes in their own right.
Dude, Samus Aran, Lara Croft, Miss Pac-Man, Bayonetta, Parasite Eve, Claire Redfield, they're all just a bunch of objects and goals? They're not heroes in their own right? Oh, I forgot. He said he's looking forward to more games like that, because apparently there aren't enough already, for some reason.
And after all that, if you still don't get it, bro, and you think she should die and every feminist with her, it's because number one, you're a fucking idiot.
Oh yeah, because her critics really do seriously want her to die. I like how he says, after all that, if you still don't get it, as if he has done an even halfway decent job in addressing this issue. Bro, if you still don't believe me, even though I just lied to your face and misrepresented this whole controversy and used horrible arguments, if you don't get it, you are the idiot. Not him, you. You may have seen all the evidence in the world and known about Anita Sarkeesian's shenanigans for a long time before Joe ever talked about her. But you're still the idiot.
Number two, you couldn't give a shit about anyone but yourself.
Okay, that one's just stupid. But I guess it would make sense if we really did want her and every feminist to die. The only problem is everyone and their mother knows that's not what we really want. Speaking of mothers...
And number three, outside your mother, you've never had to actually care about what other women think or feel. Say, a gamer girlfriend.
Yep, that's where Joe went. Hit his fans with the lowest blow he could. What a hateful thing to say, taking shots at their failure to get girls because they dared to criticize a feminist. Unfortunately for you, Joe, I have had a girlfriend. I have more sisters than probably 95% of your audience, and I stand by everything I've said in this video.
Or hell, in the future, your own daughter. Imagine that, and the games she'll play.
Oh, please. If I want Anita Sarkeesian to die and I don't care about anyone but myself, I wouldn't have a daughter to begin with. I wouldn't even begin to worry about the games she'll play. Who cares? I'd be way more concerned about having to spend money to feed her. Her video games, it wouldn't even cross my mind.
And like it or not, more and more women are gamers, just like you and I.
I know that, Joe. That's a good thing. I've known about that for years. I think more lonely male gamers have found themselves girlfriends and wives specifically because of that. There's no need to say like it or not. There's no conflict. It's a good thing.
So instead of completely dismissing their concerns, maybe, just maybe, take a little more time to listen to what they feel, why they feel they've been mostly marginalized in games.
Because they never say that. This is so stupid. I've had arguments about political issues and religious issues with my brothers and sisters while we're sitting around the TV, watching a movie, playing Smash Brothers, whatever, and this never comes up. None of my sisters have ever said that. Not even my hardcore feminist sister. Never comes up. Women do not feel marginalized in gaming. They never say that. This has nothing to do with real life. This is fantasy land.
I look forward to games that take more time building their female personalities rather than just using them as tools or helpers that throw you things. And you should too, because frankly, that's going to lead to far more interesting stories, opportunities, and new experiences. And honestly, guys, we're always going to have our stripper mini games and our princess savers, so why not campaign alongside them to see more mature games rise for everyone else as well?
Because I don't need to. These games already exist. You're asking me to campaign for non-gaming feminists who only care about poisoning people's minds against video games and gamers. There's no way in heck I'd work alongside them. They're not my friends, and they're not your friends either, Joe.
God damn. Be reasonable, dudes. Fuck. I hope I got through to some of you that make really stupid, disgusting arguments in the comments. I hope I got through to you guys. At least some of you. That's all I gotta say about that for right now. Think about it.
That's the end of Joe's defense of Anita Sarkeesian. Joe, I have thought about it. I've thought about it long and hard. I've spent months working on this video. I have a job, I go to church, I have an apartment, and I have brothers to look after. It took a long time to cobble together all these different videos and web articles and screenshots and calculations. I did the hard work that you do when you make an angry review of a video game. This is what happens when I apply your standards of scrutiny to your defense of Anita Sarkeesian, and bro, you blew it. You are so in love with feminism that you would rather be a complete hypocrite and contradict every ethical standard you hold to rather than expose Anita for what she is. And if you don't believe me, ask one of your more hardcore fans. I have a brother who pointed me to specific videos you'd made when he heard I was making a video critiquing you, and I decided to do a little interview with him to see if his opinion of you was at all affected by your decision to come to Anita's rescue. In fact, I'm going to go ahead and close out this video with what he has to say.
I've been a fan since he released his Halo ODST rant, which was basically ranting about how short it was and how they wanted you to pay $60. And I was like, man, I really like this guy. So I kept watching, and then he released his Halo Reach review, and I really like that. So that's kind of what got me hooked on the show. I've been watching it ever since then for years. I've loved all of his videos. They're very in-depth. He goes into very good detail. He does his research. He's really what I look to when I'm deciding if I want to buy a game. I was going to buy, The Order 1886, I believe. And then I watched his review of it, and I was like, wow, I'm not going to buy this game. When it came to Anita Sarkeesian, I was wondering what he was going to do. And he completely betrayed, everything he was and what I thought he would say. And it's not just... Everything I've seen from him in his videos would indicate that he would, bash her, tell her what a toxic piece of crap she was because of the poisoning she's doing to gaming, the lies she's told. It felt insulting to all his fans and gamers who had a problem with her because he basically called them all children, all idiots who didn't know what they were talking about, and basically dismissed all their criticisms as man-children. It's like, they've been fans of yours for ages, and they're not all idiots. In a review he did with Jeff Cayley, he said that, he said that all gamers aren't stupid, slobbering idiots on their mom's couches.
Basically, I think that your show appeals to the lowest common denominator amongst gaming. Not every gamer is a slobbering idiot sitting on his mom's couch.
But he treated all those gamers like that. Anyone who had a problem, he's like, oh, you're just a bunch of idiots. You don't know what you're talking about. I wish I really never even saw that video.
Angry Joe has said, literally, that critics of Anita literally do want her to either be raped or die or both. So my big question for you is, do you want Anita to be raped, killed, or both?
I hate Anita Sarkeesian, and I don't want her to die, and I don't want her to be raped. And as for all those comments and death threats and all those things that Anita says she's getting, and I'm sure she's actually gotten them, but as for those, I chalk that up to nothing more than normal trolling and YouTube rage and all this crap that every popular YouTuber, or even non-popular YouTubers, deal with. You look in any of Joe's comment sections, you get people saying, you suck, go jump in a lake, I'm going to kill your whole family, you're the worst reviewer ever. And Angry Joe never releases videos like, oh my god, these people are going to kill me. They really mean this. They never mean that. That's just what they say to every video. Everything's fake, everything's gay, everything sucks. And he makes a special exception for Anita because she's a girl and she's a feminist and he wants to be politically correct.
Angry Joe has said that it's irrelevant to the actual controversy on whether Anita is right or wrong about what she has said about video games. What do you think about that?
The point he's addressing, or at least he says he is in this video, is the reaction to it. And then he says it's not relevant whether she's right or wrong. That's the whole reason people are getting so angry at her, because she's wrong and because of the things she's done. It's like, who cares? Everybody cares. That's why they're getting so angry.
Angry Joe has also said that the reaction to Anita is a knee-jerk reaction by a bunch of butthurt man-children and clueless little boys who think Anita is just out there to take away their porn and video games. First of all, are you a butthurt man-child, and are you a clueless little boy?
I am kind of butthurt, but I'm not a clueless little boy, and I know plenty of people who are very well educated, very knowledgeable in this area, who completely disagree with her. They're not all a bunch of butthurt man children. I'm sure they're out there, but they do not make up the majority.
Angry Joe has said that people knee-jerk react to Anita so hard that they fail to see how stupid it makes them look. What do you have to say about that?
I'd say stupid to who? This is like a community band together. Everyone hates Anita Sarkeesian, and all gamers do. Who are they looking stupid to? They're looking awesome to everyone who agrees with this, which is majority of gamers. She's like looking stupid to maybe Angry Joe and Anita, but they don't look stupid to other people. Other people agree with these people. Other people like videos like that because they know what they're saying is right.
Angry Joe has said that the critics think everything that Anita says is completely fabricated. Just for an example, because Joe brought this up in the video, he brought up the damsel in distress trope and how it's very stereotypically used. Is that true or is that false? Because Anita says that's the way it is. And you've played a lot of damsel in distress plotline video games. So is that true or is that completely fabricated?
It's 100% true. It's not fabricated. And there's just a lot of them because guys love those games. It's not fabricated. And I played them before.
Why do you enjoy that kind of game so much?
I believe it's like guys' mission in life to protect, girls. That's what they want. That's, they're bigger, they're stronger. And playing that out in a video game is awesome, like as a knight or a super powerful guy, because you can't do that in life all the time, so you get to play it then, you really like it. And there's nothing wrong with that because it's 100% good. You're saving a girl, she's grateful for it, and you're like, I like that. She paints it to be something bad, but it's really not. It's awesome, and people love it. That's why they keep making games like that.
Angry Joe has said that Anita Sarkeesian has the right to point out and criticize whatever she sees fit. What do you think about that?
I'd go no further than pointing people to Angry Joe's interview with a guy called Jeff Cayley of the Video Game Awards. He asked him specifically, what are the people's qualifications to rate these games? The people who are giving the games, 8 out of 10 or whatever. What were their qualifications? What were their, backgrounds? Things like that. And with Anita, she hasn't proven she's a gamer. She hasn't proven that she's been gaming her whole life. Even Angry Joe pointed out that she says that she's not even a gamer. if that was the guy, this is the perfect thing. If you made Anita a guy and he was saying all this and things like that, Joe would rip him apart because he had no qualifications. He said he wasn't even a gamer, and yet he was insulting people, telling them that you need to do this, you're all a bunch of pigs. But since she's a girl, she gets the special treatment. Even after that, when he's looking back on that, when I think back on it, I should have been more angry. I shouldn't have been so, diplomatic. And that's what he was here. He wasn't Angry Joe.
Angry Joe has asked, wouldn't it be good if developers continued to explore other video games besides the damsel in distress video games, as if video gamers thought that was kind of weird? Do you think it's weird? Do you ever play any game that doesn't have a damsel in distress plotline?
I played tons of those games, and a simple example of that is Fallout 4. We just got it. There's no damsel in distress. You're just a dad looking for your lost baby. And it's a great game. He acts like those games, like, oh, that's way overused. There's no games like that. We need to strive for games where it's not like that. Those games are all over the place. There's no cry or need for these games because they already exist.
Angry Joe says that women should have the right to criticize video games without being called a feminazi or getting rape or death threats. What do you have to say about that?
I'd say that that's bullcrap for the simple reason that it's free speech. Anybody can call anybody anything they want and be like, you can't call me that because it's mean, or I don't like that. So what? Angry Joe gets called stuff all the time. He doesn't go on YouTube and be like, you can't call me that stuff because it's mean. I have the right to criticize what I want without people making fun of me. No, he doesn't. It's public scrutiny. It's perfectly okay. With Angry Joe's reviews of different games like Total War 2, you're never like, oh, how dare you say those bad things about the game. Don't those game developers have the right to make those games without being called terrible game developers? No, they don't. You're putting it out there for people to scrutinize and review. You can't just turn around and be like, you don't have the right to do that anymore. No, yes, they do. Angry Joe does it all the time with every single game review he makes.
There's a particular point in Angry Joe's response to Anita that you don't like rewatching, so much so that I didn't even play it just now. Why don't you go ahead and say what it was and just tell them why you don't like watching it?
It was the part where he said that many feminists love sex in video games. That's so untrue. It makes me sick to watch it, and I'm like, it looks so fake when he's talking about it. He's like, many feminists love this. It's not Angry Joe. You could tell it's fake because I've seen tons of his videos, and he's always like really passionate, and you could tell when he's really into something, and he wasn't into that at all. He was like forcing himself to act that way, and it was terrible. It was like another person. It wasn't Angry Joe.
You've seen basically all of my video. You've seen all the different things that I've exposed, the bad arguments he's made, the outright lies he's told, the half of the only parts of the story that he's represented when he refers to certain controversies referring to Anita. Now that you've seen all of that, now what is your opinion of Angry Joe?
I still trust him in video game reviews and things like that. Maybe it was just a one-time thing. I still trust him with video game reviews. I don't hate him.
So you don't dismiss everything Joe has said out of hand because of this video. You still think that he's right when it comes to criticizing video games and stuff.
Yeah, 100%. I've played games that he's rated, whether it's an 8 out of 10, 9 out of 10, 6 out of 10, and I agree with pretty much all of them. So yes, I still trust him when it comes to video game reviews.
What would you like Angry Joe to do now that you know just how wrong he was in defending Anita Sarkeesian?
Ideally, it won't happen probably, but ideally I'd like him to release a video in response to this video saying that you highlighted all the things, you really opened his eyes and showed how wrong he was in these areas, that he admits that he was really lackluster in this thing, he really didn't research, he really didn't do his research like he normally does, and now he just apologizes to his entire fan base and anyone who watched the video and says that he'll be more careful in the future. But most of all, he says that, he agrees with you now that Anita, all the terrible things Anita's done, how many lies she's told, and things like that.
Do you want to give a shout out to Angry Joe here?
Don't immediately blow this video off, please, because we're still really big fans. Even my brother, no matter the things he said, he still watches your videos. I watch them. They're really good. But this one was terrible, and you really need to look at what you did and realize, what was wrong with it. Just understand that I'm still a big fan. I'll still watch your videos. I don't dismiss everything you said just because of this video.
And I would love to meet you someday.
And I would love to meet you someday because you're like my most popular guy on YouTube. I love you more than anybody. No homo.
No homo.